Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. I have the honor of having, he used to be the best dressed man in real estate. He has since, he has more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? A transitional attire.
Yeah.
You can't let your tenants see you wearing suits all the time. They might not try to pay their rent. But I will say this, the nicest guy in real estate. Officially, Mr. Grant Warrington. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. Hey, first of all, what a great introduction. I appreciate that. But I really want to say thanks for having me on the show, dude. The show is fantastic. Always has been. Love you, and I just loving this chance to be on here. So thanks.
Wonderful, man. Dude. Happy to have you, man. You shared parts of your story through social media and kind of the transitions that you take, and I know some of it, but I don't know all of it. So, what I like to do with my guests is kind of let them tell their story wherever they want to start it, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. Yeah, I can just jump in. One of the things you touched on, the dress too, like that's so funny because, I was in construction my whole life, and when I was 19 years old, I was a crane operator. It's called an oiler back then. It's kind of an apprentice, let's say that. And I was getting a coffee at the coffee truck, right? And it's at 9:30, and I saw this iron worker, and he was an older guy, and he had a tie on, which is, if you ever know what an iron worker is, they don't wear ties. Mm-hmm. And it was crazy. And I'm like, I wonder what this guy's wearing a tie for. And somebody asked him, and he said, today's my last day. I retire today, and I always wanted to know what it felt like to wear a tie to work, and I thought, how cool. And it's always been the same thing with me is like, I'd love to be able to wear a suit and a tie and feel what that's like. And it's awesome because I had the ability to do that when I quit my job. And that's kind of, why I went that route. I wanted to be so business professional, and it suited me, and I loved it. And now I've just made some shifts I'll get into. And now I'm back to more business casual.
Yeah.
And
well, I call it I'm just going to come up and make a word right now. Yeah. I call it business attitude, right? And not business casual, right? And so
business sport is what I call it.
Yeah, one of the things, and this is interesting. This is a real conversation. Yeah. This is actually a real conversation, guys, for anybody that's listening, that I would have with anybody, and me and Grant would have this off camera. Yeah. I have a lot of clients who let's say they're going through drug addiction, or they're losing some weight, or they're CEOs. A lot of my guys are CEOs of companies. And we spend most of our time talking about how they feel about themselves. So then it shows to their employees, right? And you're telling a story with who you are, how you operate. And one of the things that I could do better at, this is definitely the thing, we're in an RV now. But I have a lot going on, so I try not to think a lot when it comes to, I wear a lot of the same things over and over again. And, my fiance is like, hey, that's great, but you're also like a coach who coaches millionaires. So like, maybe you should I don't know, just like lose some of that, and I know like you're comfortable wearing that. And so it's definitely been something that I've been thinking about, and I've lost a lot of weight. So I was kind of waiting till my weight kind of like leveled off. But, I remember reading a story a long time ago, in the Beastie Boys. He wore a suit for 30 days straight, and like he was wearing it in the studio, right? And then one day he ran out of suits, and he was wearing tracksuit, and nobody would listen to him.
Yeah,
and he was like, okay, there's power behind the suit. So remember, guys, you know what they always say to me, right? And I didn't expect to go that long in this topic, but remember what they always say to me is, well, I'm not trying to impress anybody. And I get that. But how about you impress yourself?
Yeah. Good point. No, that's a great point. And that's I'll get back to your original question, but
you know what I want to hear?
I really agree with that.
You always tell the story.
Yeah.
I can't remember all the details, but you were sitting somewhere and you were working a job.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you made a decision.
Yeah. So I'll jump into that. So, it's, first of all, it's my wife and I, Monica, 50% partners on all our real estate. We always have been, she's out there killing it today. So it's a 50% partnership, but back when I had a W-2, I was a construction worker, 24 years. And, what would happen? I started working for the union, and I was a business agent or an organizer. But I worked right for the union. I wasn't running a crane anymore. I wasn't out in the field, and I had a great job. And what happened was I was asked to do something that I just didn't agree with. Okay. I just didn't agree with it. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I was told not to do that. And, by a police officer. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not. And it was, there's so much more to it. So you can't just draw down the line, but I said, that's just not what I'm comfortable doing. And, they said, okay, well, go drive over to Starbucks. My boss is going to meet me there. And I'm like, shit, dude, you know how it is. Your boss, you're in trouble. They're going to come and bitch at you, and who knows what's going to happen. I mean, I could lose my job. And I'm like, shit. So I'm sitting there in Starbucks. I'm waiting for my boss to show up, me and another guy. And I'm like, what's going on here? Well, my wife and I had 11 units at that time. We knew we eventually wanted to get into, real estate full time, but I'm sitting there. This is my career, man. I'm a third generation operating engineer, my dad, my grandfather. So I'm sitting here going, what's going to happen? So as I'm waiting for my boss to show up, my mentor, I did in the real estate, mentor in the real estate world, my other life. We didn't communicate all that often, but we would every few months. And I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden I get a text from him. And I'm like, well, that's odd. I hadn't talked to him in months. And it was a picture of a check. And it said, my biggest check ever. And the check was for $625,000. And I was like, dude, I'm in the wrong place. I got to go. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, I got to go. It hit me right then, is like, I got to move. I don't know how, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I am in the wrong spot, and I got to get the hell out of here, dude. And I knew it right then. Something clicked, and I could never get it back. And I didn't ever want to. And I thought, I got to go. And I just figured, let him come in, let him bitch at me, let them all do what they need to do to me, but I'm gone, dude. But I didn't know how. But it's funny thing about that. Once you make the decision, 2 months later, I was working for my mentor who had become my boss. Now I quit my career W-2 job, gave up my pension, gave up a company truck. I actually had 2 pensions. I gave all that up to go follow my dream in real estate. And that check really was what did it. And it just opened my eyes. It was incredible.
People are not motivated. They're not smart. They're not hard workers. Mm-hmm. Here's my theory, especially, dealing with communities that I have and other people. So I think they just don't know that it's available. And when you see what's possible, or you get around people of what's possible,
yeah,
it changes you. It molds you. Like perfect example. He's a client now, which is funny as shit. But I met this young kid who's a land investor who's fucking smart as shit. And we were exchanging some shit on DMs, and I kind of told him my plan. This was my first year into coaching. And he listened to my plan. And he was like, oh yeah, that's cute. And I was like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, we did $3.5 million this year in coaching. I was like, excuse me? And he goes, and he laid it all out to me. He's got 2 coaches underneath him. He's got a person that runs it. And he was like, hey, how about we bump those goals up a little bit? And it was like the first time I actually talked to a coach. Yeah. That he's like, oh yeah, no, got to go bigger. And I'll never be the same after that breakfast. And you know what? I wrote some asinine goal out on a blackboard, and it was the scariest number I've ever written. It actually came to me during a massage. Wow. Like it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what? I had no idea in 6 months how I was going to get there. No idea. But it just happened. And I hit it by 2,000 over.
Wow. That's incredible, bro.
And it's like, cool. but like what people don't understand, and the story they haven't heard, is 2 days before I wrote that goal down, I lost my biggest client. It was my lowest month ever. Wow. And I had an opportunity to crawl back to where I was going.
Yeah.
Or to charge forward.
Yeah. That's incredible, dude.
And now here we are, right? And so, you know, you made the decision, you say, I'm gonna leave pensions and great jobs and company cars, and, you know, where do you go? Where do you go from there? Where does the story go from there?
Yeah. So what the beautiful thing about that is it showed me that I can quit my W-2, which I did get into another W-2, but it just broke that mindset of, you know, I had healthcare. That's the other thing too. You know, I had healthcare I gave up. So my whole career, right, I'm seasoned to think like, dude, you can't give up your pension. You can't give up your healthcare. You can't do this and that and that. And then it was like, no, bullshit, I can. So that was what was huge for me. But what happened was then I became the director of operations for a property management company for my friend, my mentor. And I oversaw 8 with our units, a little over 800 units in Southeast Michigan and Northern Ohio. And that was for about 16 months, I believe I did that. And that was just huge too, because then I'm around larger apartment complexes. You know, the largest one that I managed or oversaw was 144 units. So during that time, we bought a 20 unit apartment building. That was our first building, my wife and I. So when we bought a 20 unit, I mean, you know, I'm overseeing these large apartment buildings. I think 11 total I was overseeing, the largest 144 units. It was no big deal, man. You know what I mean? Because I was in that space. That's what I was doing every day. We had systems down already. And my mentor was great with it. He's like, hey, here, you can, you know, use what other systems we have for yourself if you want. So, I mean, we hit the ground running. It was fantastic. But the one problem we ran into was time. I ran out of time. It got to a point with the property management that my phone rang and I looked at it. It was my mom. And I'm like, if I answer this phone and it's a 10-minute conversation, that's 10 minutes. I'm going to have to work longer on the back end. And I'm not going to get home till like 7 or 7:30 tonight. And I'm like, I can't answer it. And then everyone quit calling. Like my mom's like, I know not to call you during the day. And I got to thinking, I'm like, that's bullshit. You know what I mean? For me, not for everybody, but for me, that I thought I should be able to talk to my mom during the day. And, you know, I've always had that entrepreneur mentality. So it's a little bit different, right? So I think differently about things. So I just thought that's not right. I should be able to have that. I need to put myself in a position where I can have that phone call. And that's what happened. And I'll tell you the truth. It was Monica, my wife, who it was like, I forget what month it was, but she said, listen, this is what we're going to do. Because I was stressed to the max too. She said, in 11 months, you're going to quit your job and we're going to save and we're going to get prepared for that and quit your job with no other income except for our rentals. And then every month we just kept saying, okay, 10 months, 9 months, 8 months, 7 months. Holy shit, it's getting closer. Wow, this is scary. And then I think I gave him a 4-week notice, my mentor, because I wanted to help. I wanted to stick around. I didn't want to shock him. I did a lot there. But it was crazy. I quit my job. I had my realtor. I'm a realtor in Michigan. So we thought, well, we'll just pick up some of the slack with that. I think we had like 27 units or so at that point. But it wasn't enough to live on comfortably. So we just did it. We quit. And then that showed us, you know, it's like, wow, it's like 3 years later now, we're still here and we're doing even better. We've added 2 more apartment buildings. It's just, when you have the time, and quitting that job brought me into other situations where I was able to find those 2 apartment buildings. If I hadn't quit my job, I wouldn't have been able to buy those other 2 apartment buildings, which was incredible. One of my clients, she wanted to, I was bringing her around looking for houses. And she said, you know what? The market's just crazy. I just want to buy my house I'm in now, my rental, from my landlord. Would you talk to him? She said, by the way, he owns apartment buildings. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. We had just refinanced a 20 unit we bought. So we had $300,000 a check. That check he said at $625,000, the biggest check right? We just refinanced a 20 unit I bought that her and I bought, and we got a check for $300,000. So that was our biggest check, $300,000 so far. It's just cool to see this shit come around, right? And now here I am holding that check going, wow. But that led me to the second building. The third building was on the MLS that led us to that building. And it's just all because we quit that job and I had that time. I was able to find those buildings.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to walk through some steps. Okay. So you're here, you're sitting now, you have 3 apartment complexes. All those things have happened positively, even though there was hardships. Yeah. So first step, what advice would you give to the guy in the union job?
It would depend. I would say be the best you can be no matter what. No matter if you want to sit there and work and that's who you are, be the best you can be. Because here's the thing. I don't care if you work at McDonald's. If you show up on time every day, you're willing to work, put the time in, whether you're the union guy or you're the McDonald's employee, pretty soon you're going to be the manager. You're going to be in a higher position. Life rewards people like that. So that's what I would say. But if that isn't you, right? If you're going, I need to do something different, which 99% of the people say anyway, just 98% of them don't do anything. I would say start educating yourself. I went on Bigger Pockets in 2014 and I started, we decided to buy a rental, and that's how I learned. Brandon Turner and Josh Dorkin were doing the podcast, and that's how I learned. And luckily we had built up to 11 units. We built up to that before I quit. So we had that, we built it. Like they say, build it before you need it. And that's what we did. We had 11 units. So we had just enough to stand on and just enough knowledge also to move on to my next job as a property manager. So we did build it before we needed it. So, I mean, my advice would be do something continually every day, over and over and over, to get yourself out of that situation, if that's what you want.
Mm-hmm. And then ultimately, I think my bigger issue and kind of fed up's not the right word, but just kind of over the excuses. There's a lot of people out there that are claiming that they want this new thing. They want that thing, or they want that change, but I'm not seeing the follow through. I'm not seeing the work. They're almost wanting it without the grind, or like without any knowledge. And the thing is like, it's really easy to get fast cash, right? Like you can get fast cash on moral, without values. You can do this transaction, you can do all these things. And one of the things that I'm really drilling home with my clients these days is like 90% of the problems that exist for you, if it's in business or in life, is you have unequated expectations on an improper time horizon. Yeah. It's as 100%. Simple as that. If I were to tell you that this attitude that you have where you work hard, you network with people, you buy undervalued assets, if you did that for 20 years straight, there's no chance you wouldn't be a millionaire for the arbitrary, ridiculous fucking number, right? Yeah. But if you tell me that you want to hit that same goal in 2 years, you might have a little problem. Yeah. And so nobody's looking at it. Like all the companies that I'm building are 50-year companies. And to be honest with you, they're probably bigger because if my kids take them over or my partner's kids. So ask yourself, simple question. Do I have proper expectations on the right timeline? That's it. Yep. And if you don't, then you recalibrate those, readjust, and then get to work.
100%. Yeah. And am I willing to go through the bullshit to get there? Because it's, it does suck. 7 years. Now we're really starting to see the fruits of our labor. Because when we bought these properties with no money. And we always had to refinance to try and purchase the next one. And it just very little. We on our first single family home we bought in 2000, let's say it was December 2014, we ran out of money. And now we're at 41 units, and we continually did that with just leveraging, doing whatever we could to make these happen. We bought houses on credit cards, personal loans. I sold my truck, my boat, my pool table to put a down payment down on a house. We've done everything crazy we could do to get these loans, to buy these houses, to grow. And that's just something we were willing to do. And when you do that, they don't cash flow awesome, right? Like they cash flow, but it's not like what you think. We're not cash flowing $600 a property, right? So that's what happens. And then when you buy these apartments, you have to take your cash flow and you have to rehab out of your cash flow. So, we might own, back then we owned these buildings, but we were taking the money that was coming in and we had to continually rehab these properties. Now that's starting to change. And now we're seeing a little bit, a lot better issue. But I'm telling you, man, there were some really bad times. I'll tell you about the one time. It was probably 2015 or 16. We just bought 3 houses. We were buying them in bulk, 3 at a time. Then we rehab them, refinance them, giant burrs. And we'd put a blanket loan on them and go out and buy 3 more. And I was sitting in Lowe's parking lot. It was December 2017. I have it in my phone. Every year it goes off. My calendar reminder at that time, because I was sitting in Lowe's parking lot and I just was bawling. It was raining. It was a work night. I was after work. I was picking up material for the rehab and I was just bawling. I'm like, is this worth it? Is this really worth it? I got a good job. Here I am busting my ass, and I drive down the streets and look at the houses and look in the windows and you see everybody's TV on. And it's like, what the fuck am I doing out here, man? You know what I mean? It's like, here I am, dude, busting my ass and everybody else is just relaxing. And so I'm in that parking lot, I just had enough, dude. It was like a breakdown. And I said, you know what? In a year from now, I'm going to remember this and I'm going to look back because I'm not going to quit. I knew that. I'm not going to quit. So let me put a reminder to the Grant in a year from now. And I'm sitting there putting that reminder in there to me in a year saying, this is where you were, this is what you were feeling. And then I asked myself, is it worth it? And I put that reminder in my phone and every year it goes off. Every year I've said, I'm not sure. For years, I said, I'm not sure, but I remember how I felt. And I remembered I'm doing better than that. I'm doing better than last year. I'm doing better than last year. And then this year, this December 17th was the first year I did a post of it on Instagram that I actually said, yes, it's worth it because now we're starting to see cash flow. Now we're starting to see some different things in our lives. And it was just crazy though. But I did that. I did do that, but I made that commitment. I'm going to do this until the day I die. I don't care if I don't make a dime. This is who I am. And this is what I do. When I'm 80 years old, I'll be a real estate investor and I'll be doing this. So I took that doubt off the table. There is no quitting. This is what I am. This is what I do. There's no falling back, going back, doing any of that. It's going forward. This is what I do no matter what. But that was a tough one. There's been a lot of moments like that. So getting back to it, that's the point. Are you willing to go through that and accept it? The nice thing was that I had my mentor and I could look and say, he bought one single family house. Now he's got a plane, a helicopter, lives on the water. He's like 38. And it's like, it's got to work. Monique and I would be like, is it going to work? And we'd be like, it's got to, it works. It's working for him, So, and that's what we did. We just found somebody that it was working for. And we were way behind, but he said, here's the steps I took. If you want to be uncomfortable, if you want to have some sleepless nights, here's what I did. He said, I don't recommend it to everybody, but here's what I did. And we said, you know what? We're going to follow it. And we had all those uncomfortable, sleepless nights. And it's been completely worth it though.
100%. My dreams and my hopes and my goals are not negotiable. It's not even, and the thing is like, I think I think that we live in a society where we want to point out everything that we can't do, or the negative parts of who we are, right? And so I said this to a client today. Think of my makeup, my skill set, my mental makeup, my health, as my own personal mind map. And every day I take an assessment in my mind of areas that I need to improve on, to add on as a CEO, as a fiance, as a brother, as a son, this week. What's the book? What's the podcast? What's the friend? What conversation with a friend that's going to get me to where I need to go? And then I'm constantly always approving that, right? Mm-hmm. But I also know myself, and I know that I'm more me, just me. I am more responsible to other human beings than I am myself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I have to build companies, because my need to support them and their families and create a life for them actually fills me up. So that's what I'm going to go do. And so when I stepped into this space, real estate, I did what everybody thought you should do. I bought the single family houses and I ran the Airbnbs and I did all those things. And thank God I did those things, because now I know I don't want to do any of those fucking things. Now, here's the mental shift, though. It took me doing enough personal development to realize that I had the skill set, which is what I want to do anyway, which is put people in a room, find the right operators, get them money, and let them go do the work.
Yep.
But you also have to sell to yourself that that's work.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, I have a CEO that running a huge company that I need him to go play golf. And he's like, so you're fucking telling me to go play golf? Yeah, I'm telling you to get away from your employees. Yeah. Like, you've built the algorithm, you have the relationships, like, go away. Yeah. Like, I know that's like mentally hard for you to understand, but I need you to like thinking. I need you to be like, where's the company going to be 5 years from now? That if you're not doing that, then you're not doing your job. Yeah. But so then it's like a secondary thing of like, well, I don't feel like I deserve to be out on the golf course. So, you know, like there's all these like complexity layers, but that's by doing the work and investing in yourself and finding where you see. Like, one of the things that I think you're great at is like, you love these like how-to videos. Yeah. And you get a huge response. Yeah. Like, because like your brain works that way and you see it and you go through. And so like, you know, you found a video tactic that works for you. Yeah. And you've leaned into that instead of trying to be the boisterous, loud, you know, outgoing guy. Like, you're just like, no, this is what I love. I love the process of the apartment buying / fixing, you know, and people can resonate with that and then move forward.
Yeah. And that's, you know, one thing for me too, there was always a lot of like, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to tell you, you can go on Bigger Pockets and learn how to buy an apartment. You can learn how to buy a single family home. You can do, like, there's so much out there, right? On that. That's great. My thing is, what happens when you buy an apartment? What then, right? Where's all that information? And that, when we were buying our apartment, it's not out there. There's not a lot out there. So what I'd like to do is I like to make videos and say, hey, flooring, we use Sherwin-Williams for our flooring. And people go, Sherwin-Williams? Yeah, they're one of the largest flooring distributor in the United States. And they're all over the United States, right? So no matter where you're at in the United States, if you're watching my video and you find out about Sherwin-Williams, you can contact their flooring department and say, hey, you know, if you have enough units, and they'll do your flooring. You can't beat their pricing. But those are little things that we had to find out. And I'm like, where are those videos? Help me out with paint color. Like, I don't want to go in and we do everything the same, but it took hours and hours and hours of us figuring out paint color. We use agreeable gray from Sherwin-Williams. There you go. It took us hours to figure out what the best paint color was, the best flooring, click or glue down. You know, it just took me hours for this stuff. So it's like, why don't I just make videos? If you just bought a 10 unit, a 20 unit, I mean, here's some good content. Watch some of these videos. Here's what we did. Here's what we do. Here's why we do it. And it just made sense to me. I'm like, I'll just put these videos out. I mean, I'm not the most handiest guy and I don't do any repairs anymore. There was a minute there I was trying to get in it and be the maintenance guy. But my friend, Jamie Gruber, said to me, Are you trying to save money or are you creating money by being the handyman? And I said, I'm saving money. I'm not creating it by any means. So that's when I got out of that process. But, all these little videos, I like to show people, like, here's how simple it is. And the beautiful thing about apartments is once you master one, 650 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment and everything that goes on inside of it, and you got a 20-unit building of those same things, it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. So our scope of work is the same. It just becomes simple and easy to deal with once you do that. That's why I love apartments. Houses are all different square foot, different configurations, and these are all the same. And I love them. That's why I love them.
That's great. See, now I'm text my partner right when we get off this and be like, Sherwin-Williams, we're about to do a remodel on the house. I'm like, yeah, dude, there we go. So like every day you learn something new, and I love that. And you're 100% right. Like once you fix, one of the joys of apartments, joys, we'll use that word for the negatives, but one of the joys is, you're right. It is the same building. Yep. You figure it out a couple times and then you go and rinse, repeat the model. And like, call it my hubris 20s, but as I get older, I don't want the sexy anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm only starting businesses that have a market cap that has no ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm only getting into businesses that we have a full runway of whatever it is that we want to do. That's why I'm looking at title companies. That's why I'm looking at blockchain title companies. That's why I'm looking at all the stuff that exists that never gonna go away.
Yeah.
And even I have my own qualms about Airbnb because it's the thing and it's so sexy and everybody talk about, but we're actually going to go a different route with it because I see the sexiness that people are buying. I can cash into that through value creation. Right. And so I read a book called The Psychology of Money from Morgan Housel. And he said, the number one issue with you is that you think you're special. And he said, when you meet, he was using traders, like Wall Street traders. He said, you're looking at that guy because he's invested in said thing, right? And you're saying, oh, he's wrong. But you have no idea how he has his money, what's the time horizon on his money, and all that stuff. So like somebody said this to me the other day. They were like, man, we were really jealous and envious of said person who has, 50 units, right?
Yeah.
In Ohio, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And that's like $100 a unit. I'm like, you could have 2 Airbnbs in Austin and make double what she's making.
Yeah.
So does it matter? And I was like, don't, just because it's a unit count or a thing, like all money is not created the same.
Yep. Yeah. And that's another big thing too, that, I had to get over that too myself, like just speaking on unit count where, I would look at people, like you said, and be like, wow, they got 1,000 units. Right. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. They've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing it for 7. Right. It's like, how can you equate yourself to these people when they put in much more of the work than I have at this point? So I think that's a great point to that.
No, and ultimately, even from a coach point of view, like after this call, I have my coaching group and it's with 10 coaches. We're on certification number 2. And sometimes, because I'm a newer coach, newer than a lot of these people, sometimes you have to get in the room. So this is guys, I'll share you a little secret. A lot of times the guys that I'm partnered with, let's say they're new to a certain space, I have them go take a course or I have them go to a mastermind or something, right? And they go, why'd you send me in there? Because that you could tell me all that information. And I go, yeah, I could, but that's not why I sent you in there. Well, why do you think I sent you in there? And I'll let them think on it. And they're like, because you wanted me to see that I'm no different than the guy hosting that thing.
Yeah.
And I go, exactly. Because if he can do it, you can do it. But it's not until you get in the room. I remember when I went to Jake and Gino event, it really changed my thinking. We went and we were in Nashville and this guy had 300 units and they bought a 1,257 unit portfolio. And they asked him, like, all these multifamily nerds were like asking all these stupid questions. And he was just like, he's like, look, guys, we just did it.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
He's like, my dad had some financing background. We said, fuck it. And he's like, it was a good deal. We bought it. He's like, and then we figured it out from there. And he's since gone on to buy like 2,000 units since then, maybe more now. And it was the mindset to say, hey, we just fucking did it. Like, we didn't know, we didn't have the skills, but like, that's where like relationship building, getting the people, like, network good, like, having those people in your network, you can just lean on their expertise.
Yeah. And it's, that network is huge to me. So, I was going to networking events. I love networking events, but it just, when you keep going to the same ones over time, and if you're growing, right? Like we own 41 units and people were like wanting to talk to me. And I'm like, whoa, me? Why? And, I guess I had the most units or whatever and I'm like, that's great. I love helping people, but that doesn't help me. I need to be around people that have a lot more than me. Mm-hmm. So, the last event we went to, I went with my mentor. I called him. I'm like, hey, are you going to the Apartment Association of Michigan event? It was at an airport up in Pontiac, I believe. And he said, yeah, I'm taking my helicopter up there. Do you want to ride with me? I said, yeah, hell yeah. We used to drive in a car to these events. And now I met him at the airport by his house. We jumped in his helicopter. We took his helicopter up there. And it's funny because we flew in his helicopter over our 20 unit apartment building. And he's like, hey, look, there's your apartment building. And it was so surreal for me because when I used to work for him, he had a smaller plane and we flew in his plane over his apartment buildings. And he was saying, look, there's my building. And now we're flying in his helicopter and he's pointing out our building. And I'm like, wow, it's just amazing. When you do this shit, it just, like I said, we're just following in his footsteps. Right. And it's like, how amazing. But I get into this room with these apartment investors, and it's actually a hangar. They were showing their jets. A couple of guys had their jets there. And we landed in a helicopter, like I said, and it's just amazing. And I'm like, dude, I need to be in bigger rooms like this. It just the feeling and the people that were, there, like the one guy owned 3,000 units and he's like, how many units you own? I said, 41. He said, great for you. Keep going. This is the best thing I ever found in my life to do. So keep going. Where do you get encouragement like that? Right. So Never. It's like, yeah, I said, I need to be around guys like this. So that's when I joined GoBundance like 4 or 5 months ago, because I needed to get in bigger rooms. And that was my problem. Because now I'm in those rooms and I'm having these conversations, and I'm having conversations that I'm like, wow, these are like high level conversations, even above where I'm at. And I'm like, that's so great. I might not understand something right now, but I'm around it. And it's just incredible to get around guys that are doing a lot more than you're doing, because then you start speaking the language, it's just and in the past, we had done that and got around some people doing bigger things, and it makes it easier. Like when I say $10 million to you, you're like, yeah, okay. $10 million, right? Yeah. But when you first start out in this, you're like, $10 million. Oh my God.
Dude, screw that. My partner just told me today that he's like, we're going to run $1 billion fund. And I'm like, all right, fucking sounds good. Let's go. Hey. Yeah. Like, and I agree with you. Yeah. It's so interesting that, and I'll go back to one of my first comments, like, until you get around options, you don't understand that it's all relative. And I think what's interesting in the mild success, because I'm just a humble guy, but the mild success that I had this last, 9 months in my coaching business, I realized one thing very quickly. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like when I had the month that I thought I would never fucking have in my life, ever, like my mind couldn't even wrap around it. I look around and I go, all right. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, it doesn't fucking matter. Yeah. And so if it doesn't matter, well, then what matters? Okay. What matters? Who I am, what I'm doing with, who I'm doing it with, what projects we're working on. And you have to allow yourself, and this is where I've gotten to personally. If it's not going to scare the shit out of me, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I no offense to anybody else, but if it doesn't make, and apologize for anybody, if it doesn't make my ass sweat,
yeah,
if it doesn't scare me a little bit,
yeah,
you know, I don't really want to do it, because it doesn't, here's what it doesn't do. By going lower, it doesn't allow me to work with the people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I never even thought about that till I just said it right there.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because when your opportunity is small, you're only going to be dealing with smaller people. But by launching yourself up in this bigger realm, you get to employ or partner with the people that you want. Yeah. And it's the same thing that Alex Hormozi said about his business. By charging more for whatever you do, allows your business the oxygen to operate in the space that it should, not shouldn't.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And so, meaning that, you know, we as entrepreneurs and people that sell services are trying to skimp on everything, but by skimping, you can't provide the value that you need. Like, I just brought on a person to work with me who's a very skilled HR director, assistant, basically number 2. My clients are only going to get more value by having her in my team, not less. Now, I might have to charge a little more to afford her, but I'd rather make the decision now, right? And that's what I tell my clients all the time. You know, this decision that you're making are you running $1,000 business or $100,000 business?
Yeah.
You know, and so, you know, we have to reinvest in ourselves and our business, and we have to know that there's something more. But like, you know, I coach a couple I don't even know how, but I coach a couple wholesalers, which is hilarious because I've never wholesaled anything. And yes, they might be making a lot of money, but they're stuck in an unwinnable game.
Yeah.
They can't get off the treadmill. And they're fucking like, I'll do anything, right? But here's the problem. Then their ego and identity is tied up into that money, and to lose it, they'd have to rebuild who they are.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you start from that, if you really live in who you are, and you're building from the place of value, then you don't have to worry about, you know, you can just start there. And like, one of the things I respect about you is that you are 100% who you are. There's no smoke and mirrors. There's no BS. Like, you're just, this is what I do. I may not be the fastest one there.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna steady the shit out of this thing.
Yeah.
And we just beat it into submission.
Exactly.
Like, and there needs to be more of that out there, instead of you know, racing around and just trying to do everything. Like, I feel you very tactical. Like, and maybe that's your wife that keeps keeps the lanes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, we work really well together. Yeah. My wife and I mean, we do, it's phenomenal. I'm very fortunate. It's, but yeah, that's, we, you know, we've grown. I like to say we've always grown at our own pace. You know what I mean? We aren't the fastest, right? But we've always grown where we needed to, right? We've figured out, okay, we're done with single families. Let's move on to small multifamilies. And then we figure out, okay, small multifamilies are a lot of work. We're self-managing. We're doing all these things ourselves. Let's move on. Now we're moving on to put a team together, and now we're looking to syndicate larger complexes. So we've grown, and, you know, people ask, well, what would you do different? And I'm always like, well, I don't really know if I would do anything different, because we've grown at our own pace. Right?
You've given each stage of the journey the respect it deserves.
That's a great point. That is
which is not done ever. You know, everybody, you know, I was talking to my client today. Like, if I were to tell you that I'd be right fucking here, having this conversation with you, building the businesses I have 2 years ago, I would have gave you everything in my bank account.
Yeah.
But yet we're fucking here and we don't enjoy it.
You're right. 100%.
It's like, this is what you asked for.
Yeah.
You know, but by respecting each level and knowing that there's always another one, then you're immersed in said level, giving it the attention that it deserves.
Yeah. Correct. Yep. 100%.
And knowing that with each next step, is going to ask. That's really where it is. And we'll leave it at this. It's not that you don't have the skills. It's that each next step is asking more out of you.
Yeah.
And you don't know, you as said person, meaning me or whoever, doesn't know if he has another gear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like the 100-unit department, it's going to be less managing, but it also takes a lot more responsibility, more money, and so like, we have to like check if it's a skill set scenario or it's what we're asking of oneself.
Yep. For sure.
I love it. So if people want to follow about what you have going on and all your stuff, how would they do that?
You can follow me on Instagram at Grant Warrington. That's probably the best way. I'm on YouTube too, Grant Warrington. But Instagram's the best. If anybody out there ever wants to have a conversation, I offer a 30-minute free phone call. You can go to Instagram. The link in my bio will take you to that. You can schedule a 30-minute free phone call. We can talk real estate. If you feel like you're stuck in your real estate investing, maybe I can just have a conversation, listen where you're at. Maybe I can help you out. And it's a free phone call. So, I encourage people to take me up on it, if
do it,
see if I can
take them
help.
up, guys. Well, guys, we appreciate y'all. If you got any value from this, send it to a friend, share it with somebody, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.